Hey everybody, Bob here with JD Squared. Hey listen, I'm going to shoot the video on K-Factors, but first, let's go up on the mountain up there and have a little bit of fun. It's called the Snake. It's the mountains of North Carolina up here in the Smokies, and it's kind of like the baby brother to the tail of the dragon. And I got some of my friends with me. We got a Porsche GT3 up there in the lead, 1500 horsepower GTR in front of me. I'm in 42, the Lamborghini. This is my baby. And behind me we got another Porsche GT3 and a new GT500, which I got to drive yesterday. Absolutely amazing car. I think I'm gonna have to put that on the shopping list. I'm not sure, but anyway, obviously this video is going to be about K-Factors, but you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You got to get that therapy in. So I'm going to go up there on the mountain, have a little bit of fun, and then we'll head on over to the shop and I'll explain all to you about K-Factors and why they're important. Welcome to the Snake, folks. This is the mild part of it right here. It's probably one of the few parts where I can actually try to hold the phone and get an idea. But this is the entrance to the Snake. Now we're getting ready to cross the lake here. So we're really not technically in the Snake yet. In fact, look at this beautiful scenery. This is why I love Tennessee. Check this out right here, guys. I don't know if you can see it. Look at that. Oh man, let's see. Can you see all that? This place is so beautiful. Anyway, okay, we're pretty much coming up on it here pretty quick. So let's see what we got, guys. Let's just go have a little bit of fun. Hey, to give you a better view of what the Snake looks like, let's go ahead and switch over to my buddy's in-car camera. He's in the Porsche GT3 RS. Give you a good idea why we like this road so much. where a lot of people stop. It's kind of like in the middle of the snake. There's several different branches. This is the group that we're with right now. Yet if we just pan around right here, you can see, oh, it's really just, it's just beautiful up here. If you're ever in the area of 421 North Carolina, we recommend you stop in. It's fantastic. Anyway, there's that GT500 right there. That thing just sounds awesome. GT3 RS, that's my buddy's GTR. That's number 42. That's what I named my car. And then another GT3. Anyway, great day up here in the mountains. We're having a good time. Well, don't worry. We're going to get to work and tell you about K-Factors. Thanks for bearing with me when I went to my therapy session right there. I'm old, I'm overweight, I've been married over 41 years, so God knows I need some therapy. Scratch the 41-year part. She's got a secret code word, and I think it's half. So we'll keep that part of it. But anyway, thanks for bearing with me. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the video. Anyway, first of all, this is my second video that I've started doing on this new blog deal that we're doing at JD Squared. And we're going to be doing this from now on. 1 or 2 videos a week is what we're striving for. We want to show you everything from obviously how our machines work, but also how to do other stuff. So we may have videos come out on how to CNC machine. We're talking G codes, you know, things like that. TIG welding, laser cutting, things that don't have anything to do with what we build. We're just going to have fun. Let's go to some car shows. Let's just have a little bit of fun doing that. Now, I just mentioned second video. I'm new to this. I'm learning. I can hear a little bit of hum coming through. I have not figured out yet how to get rid of this hum, short of going to a new building. So I apologize if the hum is there. I am trying to learn how to get it out of there. Anyway, obviously this movie or this video is about K-Factors, but I decided this morning, I was talking to some people, and I knew that a lot of people made a lot of money doing YouTube videos, you know? Now, I am never going to be a good YouTuber. It ain't going to happen. I'm just, you know, what you see is what you get type of a deal. Having said that, though, let's just go ahead and monetize this YouTube deal. That's what they told me it's called. And basically what it is YouTube will pay you to monetize your video to where they can put ads in it, stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do. Now, here's the thing. We're not going to take any of this money, not a red nickel of it or red cent. 100% of it's going to go to St. Jude. That's just the way it is. We'll prove it on demand. We don't need the money from revenue. St. Jude needs the money. So what I'm going to ask you to do is hit the subscribe button, hit the notify button, and hit a like. You know, even if you don't like me or you think I'm kind of goofy, that's fine. A lot of people do think I'm goofy. Anyway, the bottom line is St. Jude's going to get the bucks. So if you subscribe and you never not watch another freaking video that I make, you're actually doing something good. So help us out. Let's be cool about this. You know, hit that subscribe button. All right, having said that, let's get on the subject of hand, or subject at hand, and it's called K-Factors. Okay, K-Factors. First of all, they're very important. If you don't know what a K-factor is, or the K-factor of your material, it's going to be almost impossible to create an accurate structure from a drawing. Now, K-factors apply to everything from bending tubing and pipe, bending sheet metal. Exact same principle. All right, before I get into explaining what the K-factor actually is, let's talk about the physics of bending something. And in this case, we're going to take this steel tube right here. When we go and bend it, what's happening is the inside of the bend is actually compressing. The tubing that would be required is getting shorter. But the outside of the bend is stretching, therefore we need more tubing. Now, that tells you, if you think about it, somewhere between it compressing and stretching, there's a place, there's a line, the neutral line, where the tube is neither being stretched nor compressed. And that is the value that the K-factor is going to represent. So let's just say it's a perfect world. The tubing compressed evenly on the inside as it's stretched on the outside, which means the neutral line is going to be dead in the middle of the bend 50% of the way up, okay? 0% being the inside, 100% being on the outside, 50%. Well, in that case, in the perfect world, we would just add up the length of our two straights, the arc length through the bend, which can be easily calculated, and you've got your raw length of material. Never happens in the real world that way. What really happens is it takes more force to compress than it does to stretch your material. So that neutral line is going to move down, closer to the inside. So what we need to do is figure out where that neutral line is in relation from the inside. So let's just say the neutral line, once you do the test that I'm going to show you how to do, and you determine that it's 40% of the way up the tubing. Well, that's your arc length. It's not 50% halfway. It's the arc length as if it was only 40% up. Now, the K factor is that percentage. So if you go from 0 to 1, 0 to 100%, that would be it. So in our example, if we said we went up 40% from our calculator, the K factor is going to be 0.4. From that value, now our program can calculate the true length of material necessary so that when you go cut your blanks and you put the marks on it or where to place the bends, it should be pretty darn accurate. That's why K factors are so important. So let's do this. Let's go over there. I will show you how to make this particular part right here, and then I will go in on the computer and we will show you how our software calculates the K factor for you. It's easy, folks, real easy. All right, let's get after it. Yeah. Something about holding a sharp piece of steel makes you just want to go, I am all that is man. Ow, might hurt my shoulder. Let's get on with it. Let's cut this metal up. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. By the way, I know I can't sing, I just do it anyway. All right, close devices, hit the go button. There we go. Bam! A 124-inch piece of tubing. Okay, what we need to do now, we got our straight piece of pipe, tube. We're going to go ahead and we're going to place a mark. And I've decided to do this one at 3 inches. It doesn't really matter where you do it. And what we're doing is we're making an L. So we have a line going up and down the tubing and then one at 3 inches. And that's what we just did right there. Let me go ahead and fire this bender up and I'll show you why I did that. Okay, let's put the die in the bender. Get this thing going. We're going to go ahead and put our locking nut down. You notice it's a long thread right there. That's because this bender here can handle up to 3-inch diameter tubing, 24-inch diameter dies, 12-inch radius. This is one bad mofo right here. So that's why you're seeing such a long thread sticking out right there. All right, now let's go ahead, get our tubing ready right here. I'm going to go ahead and retract the pressure die assembly, and we are going to install the tubing, and we're going to place that mark, that L, right here on the corner of the die. I'll show you a picture of it up close so you can see it better. Anyway, we're going to put the U-strap in. I've already pre-installed the pin on the U-strap pin, and what we're going to do, we're going to drop it through, and then we're going to, with our fingers, measure under or feel underneath the U-strap and make sure that the pin is all the way through. That's very important. All right, so let's go ahead. I am rolling it over so that I can see it right here. I'm liking it, looking good. I am not going to use the locking bolt on the dies. If you have a Model 54, you know what I'm talking about. Let's install the pressure, the follower. Now it's marked, so on this bender, there's 2 holes. It's very easy to determine what hole it is. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, we're going to walk around the back here, and we're going to engage the pressure die assembly. I'm sorry, the pressure screw. Anyway, I'm going to look right here, and I can still move the tubing a little bit. I am going to line it up with that mark. That little L is right on it. So we're good to go. Now, come on around the backside over here. Let's go ahead and, oh, secret weapon. I almost forgot. Pam, baby. Put a little bit of Pam on. This stuff works great. Now, I only spray the Pam just a little bit on the outside of the tubing. You don't want to get lubricant inside your groove. Actually, the drier this is, the better. All right, here we go. All righty, let's start bending. Okay. We're at 20 degrees. Now, what I have done is I'm pretty much going to eyeball this. I have not bent this piece of tubing in the bender. I'm watching the readout right here. I'm at 65 degrees. Okay, the bender just shut itself off at probably about the right degree, 97.6 degrees. If you're not sure how to operate the computer on a Model 54, I have other videos that'll talk about that. Let's go ahead and retract the cylinder off of it. Let's kill the machine. Now, to get the tubing out of these things, this is going to answer a question some people do. They get back here and they start yanking on this. Don't do that. Just go up to the tubing and just bump on it and she'll come right out. Now, you can pop it out pretty easily. Anyway, there's our bend. We got our L, we got our bend. Okay, let's go to the next step. Okay, here we go. We have bent our tubing. We started off with a piece of 24-inch long tubing and we bent it. Now, if you remember a minute ago when I was bending this, I was just pushing a button on the end of the Model 54, incrementing the computer a couple tenths and bumping it up, and I was eyeballing the bend. Now, one thing you could bet your bottom dollar, I don't have exactly a 90-degree bend, which was right. So if I was actually to check the squareness of the bend, it turns out that I've overbent it a little bit, somewhere around a degree, right? Here's the neat thing. It doesn't matter. What we're looking to do, we're going to measure from the outside of this leg to here, and if you actually do the trig, the amount that we're off on leg length, because I overbend 10-15 thousandths of an inch, it's negligible. So don't worry about having to have an exact 90-degree bend. What you do have to have, however, is a bend that is at least 90 degrees. So if you're going to make a bend and you're going to make an error, make sure you overbend and not underbend, because we want, when we bump this leg against this square, we're going to want this outside corner to bump against the other leg. So keep that in mind. All right, anyway, here's what we're going to do. 1.5 inch tubing, 3/4 of an inch radius. What I did is I went and I got some 3/4 inch blocks of steel right here, and I'm going to lay them on my table right here, and I'm just going to place the square, simple square from Home Depot, whatever, Lowe's. I'm going to put it on top right here, and I'm going to lay it flat. Now what that's done, it makes it a lot easier because I'm about halfway up the tubing, so it's very easy to read the ruler. Let's go ahead. We're going to lay it on a ruler, and I'm going to pull it against this leg right here. I'm going to slide it until it hits the other leg. Now I'm going to put on my glasses because I'm old. Anyway, we're going to measure right here 17 3/4 of an inch. Over here we have 10 3/8. Now what we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to determine the K factor. Now in order to do that, we need 5 variables that we have to figure out their values. One of them is easy. It's the diameter of the tubing, easy peasy. The other is the leg lengths that we just measured. We just now got 3 out of the 5. Now, the next one that we're going to have to do is the first variable, of course, was the raw length that we started with, which was 24 inches. So we actually have 4 out of 5 variables we already know. We're down to one more variable, and that's the center line radius of the tube. Okay, now, let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute. You buy a die set, and hopefully you got a JD squared bender, but if not, doesn't matter. This works for every bender in the world. They're going to have a certain radius that they machine that forming die to. Now, when I say the forming die, I'm talking about the metal die in the bender that's actually the tube fits into, right? We bent it on this tube here on a 5.5 inch centerline radius die, CLR. That's what CLR stands for, centerline radius, and that is measured at the middle of the tube. Because if you look at a die, remember, it has a groove that goes up about halfway the tubing. That's why we measure centerline radius. Anyway, so we've got that, 5.5 inches. However, when we bend anything in that die, it is always going to spring spring back out of the die a little bit. So its achieved centerline radius, what we achieved in the tubing after bending, is going to be larger than the die itself. So we have to determine what is the new achieved centerline radius. Now, here's a good rule of thumb that we've been building benders since '82, so we've seen a lot. And one thing that we've always noticed or known is that every time you go and measure typical bends, now we're talking the common radiuses bends, the ones that most people are going to have. It turns out that the spring back a lot of times is right at about an 1/8 inch. We increase the new achieved centerline radius would be about an 1/8 of an inch larger than the centerline radius of the forming die itself. And believe it or not, that works pretty darn good. If you were just to measure your two legs, put it, and you know the length of your tubing, measure your two legs, get the diameter, put it in our calculator, and just guess. Just say, hey, it's 5 5/8 of an inch centerline radius achieved. It's going to give you a K factor that's probably so close it's not worth messing with. Keep that in mind if you want to take a shortcut one day and you don't have time to do this. That's a good rule of thumb. Now, that's mild steel, folks. If you're bending chromoly, that number's going up. It could go up 1/4 of an inch. I mean, chromoly spring back like a spring. So anyway, keep that in mind. But as you bend stuff and all, take notes. Write some of this stuff down, and then later, if you're doing something you've never done, just interpolate the values from what you already have. Anyway, all right. So what we're going to do now, we know what our leg length is. Now it's time, to the best of our ability, to determine the achieved centerline radius. Now, that's actually easier said than done. And the reason is because when you bend tubing, typically you're going to have a little sink on the top, a little bit of flattening. Our benders do a really great job, but if you were to put a mic on it, it's clearly has deformed. It's gotten smaller than 1.5 inches. You're also going to have a little bit of depression on the inside. The question is, where the heck do you measure this? How do you even do this? Well, what I learned, though, in the past here is that if you can see it, I have placed marks using a Sharpie around the middle of the tubing. Now, the way I kind of found that was, remember, I can't depend on the outside of the tubing because if you're doing 0.58 and it flattens out a little bit, you don't have a reliable surface. Now, there is one surface, though, that you can depend on, and that's the ID, because the groove itself is the radius of the tubing into subject. So what I did is I literally put my glasses on first. I took my tape measure, got my Sharpie, and I went along and I placed the end of the ruler above the inside of the tube, and I placed marks. So I placed the mark all the way around it. I put 5 marks in it, right? And what I did, I put them at 3/4 of an inch, radius of the tubing, you know? Now, if I come along and measure the OD, yeah, I am slightly, and I mean slightly, less than 3/4 of an inch eyeballing it, because obviously the tubing has compressed this way a little bit, so that's why I'm seeing that. So the marks look pretty darn good, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find out, what is that radius? You know, those marks, you know, what did I just do? Now, one way of doing it, there's a lot of ways of doing it. You could go get your wife's scissors, that's why they're pink, folks, and you could come along and you could cut out, you just use the CAD program, there's a lot of free ones on there, draw out the radius that you think it is, and then cut it out with a ruler and use it as a template until you find one that looks pretty darn close. You know, you could do it that way. Now, another way of doing it, the way I like to do it, is I'm going to go ahead and take a mag base. I'm going to take the dial caliper off, set it on a nice soft pair of gloves. Anyway, here's my mag base. It's got a 1/2 inch diameter shaft. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it out here, roughly eyeballing the middle. Let me slide her down a little bit so I'm on the metal. Okay. I'm roughly eyeballing the middle, putting this shaft in the middle of the radius, just by eyeball, right? Okay, so we've done that. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to make an assumption. We're going to assume that, remember that 1/8 inch spring back rule I told you? We're going to go ahead and apply it to this. So what does that mean? That means if I was to measure from that mark to the outside of this rod, now this rod is 1/2 inch diameter, which means it has a 1/4 of an inch radius. We have to keep that in mind. But if I was to measure from this mark to the hypothetical center of this rod, you would think you'd be looking at 5.5 inches, right, for the forming die. Toss in the 1/8 inch for the spring back. You're looking for 5 5/8 of an inch. Let's subtract the 1/4 inch radius of the rod right here. we're looking for 5 3/8 of an inch if this thing actually did spring out the 1/8 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure it. And now I'm just looking down, folks. I'm just looking down. And I'm going to the outside, and I'm going to move the mag base until I see 5 3/8 of an inch this way, down this leg. Now I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to move the mag base towards me, 5 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to double check this one. Remember, measure twice type deal. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and activate the mag base, and I'm going to double check my work. So I look, and I go, yep, 5 3/8. Yep, 5 3/8. Okay, we're kind of in the middle, right? Now, here's what we're going to do. To verify that the spring back really was roughly 1/8 of an inch, all you got to do is take your ruler and run it around the rod here. So I start here, I go to the middle, and I look down, and lo and behold, it is 5 3/8 of an inch, which tells me that this particular mild steel DOM tubing, I think it's maybe 083, 095 wall, does have a spring back of about 1/8 of an inch. Now, let's just say it didn't. Let's just say we looked down and the mark was one way. Well, it's never going to be towards the outside, right? It can't be. It physically can't be because you have a metal die. It could be towards the inside. Now, if you were bending chromoly with a lot of spring back, that's what's going to happen. It's going to have a bigger radius. So let's just say that radius was the spring back was 1/4 of an inch. Then when we check it at 45 degrees angle this way, let me set this down, 45 this way, well, your mark will be inside. It won't be 5 3/8. It might be around 5 1/4 or something like that, which means just change your assumption. So instead of saying it was an 1/8 inch spring back, change it to 1/4 inch. Go ahead and move your mag base until, once again, at the center, you're the radius of your tubing minus this, so we got a 1/2 inch plus 5 1/2 through the 1/4 inch, and move it around. And now you should be able to go around the tubing like this, and the reading that you're getting on the ruler will be the same across the marks. Folks, that's your center line radius. It doesn't get any easier than that. Now, the last thing we're going to need to determine for our software, Camelot, is lead-in. Now, what lead-in is I put a mark on the tubing, little L mark, so that I knew where the edge of the die is. Now, when we make a die, we don't machine that die exactly a slice of pie to where the edge of the die is where the bend starts, because it would just basically punch itself into the tubing and you'd have a really ugly mark. You need a transition going into it. And what we do is we add the extra material to the die, and we call that the lead-in. And all it is the distance from that physical mark on the die to where the bend actually starts. Now, if I was to lay this down, there's a lot of ways you could determine this. You could actually kind of determine it with the die itself, but I could also look right here, and bottom line is, I am looking to where do I think the bend started, and I'm seeing about 3/4 of an inch. You know, that's your lead-in. So you can put that in the program under the profile library. You would put that would where the lead-in would go. Anyway, folks, we have now got all the information we need to go to determine what is the K factor of this tubing. Let's zip in the office. Let's do that. Okay, I'm sitting in front of Camelot. That's our application that we've written to help, you bending tubing, you're cutting tubing. This is the program that's going to tell you where to put the marks, how much tubing you need, stuff like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and start off by showing you the profile library, because this is where we're going to want to put in the information that we just got out there that we just measured. And what it is you've got your columns up here, and a profile is basically a result. If I had certain parameters set and I was to go use those parameters, this is the values that it's going to take it from. And that would be, why would you need different profiles for the same die set? And I mentioned out there that if you change material wall thickness, you would have different spring back rates, different, and therefore different K factors, things like that. That's why we use a profile library. Anyway, what we're going to do is whenever you use the library, whatever you're on, it's going to fill in the information over here so that you could easily modify it. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and select one, and we're going to add a new profile. And it just did. Now, it brought in the values of the previous one that we had set, and here they are up here. So the first thing we're going to want to do is give it a profile description. And what I like to do is use the identifier for the die set, and then sometimes I'll put on it, you know, what we're bending, you know, or something like that. And it's just so that you can quickly identify it. Now, material description, you know, we can put mild steel and DOM, whatever you want. You can put anything you want, it doesn't matter. OD, our tubing was 1.5 inches. Height and width has to do with square and rectangular tubing, so it's not applicable to what we're doing right now. The wall thickness we had roughly guessed was 0.90 something. We'll put an 0.95. The lead in, I had also determined out there, I figured it was around 3/4 of an inch. Now we've got to determine the, and we determined the achieved centerline radius, and we figured out that it was roughly 5 5/8 of an inch. Now we've got the K factor. This 32 is incorrect. We have to calculate the new one. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to hit the calculate button. We're going to come in and put in our raw length of material that we started, the outside diameter of the tubing, also the achieved centerline radius. See the CLR? That's what we measured. We had the best we could. Now we're going to put in the different lengths of the legs. We're going to put in one that's 10 3/8, and the other one is 17 3/4. It doesn't matter what order you put these in. It just doesn't matter. It's going to give you the same number. And then we're going to hit calculate. And there, lo and behold, there is your K factor right there. You also have bend deduction. If you want to know what bend deductions are, you know, Google it. They'll explain it to you. We use K factors, but we give you that number anyway. Now, let's just say you had put a number in that was unachievable. In the real world, it won't work. Our program will go red and tell you you have an invalid number. You can't do that. So let's go ahead and put back our 10 3/8 of an inch, calculate it. Now we're going to go ahead and take over the calculated value. And if you see right here, the K factor is there. We can now save it, and we now have a new profile, you know, that's ready to go. Now let's just say we want to use that piece of tubing, and we want to go ahead and make something real quick out of it in Camelot. Even though this video is about determining K factor, well, you've already seen that. But let's just go and see where it's used. Let's close this. We're going to go ahead and create a frame real quick, something quick and dirty, something simple. All right, so we're going to bring it up here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new tube. We're going to start off at our start location. We're going to go up, let's go up, I don't know, 24 inches, okay? Now we're going to go ahead, let's go over to the right, another 24 inches. And then finally, let's go back to the floor. We're making, you know, pretty darn simple part, right? Now, what we've done is we've basically created this roll bar, and it used the active profile. The active profile was the one that we just made. That was this one right here, you know? Now, we could change the profile, but that's a subject for another video, you know? Okay, here we go. So now, let's go ahead and unbend this thing. So we're going to apply and close. Now we want to go bend it. So we're going to hit bend selected tubes. See the little red dash right here? That is the length of the lead in. So if we bring up our dimensions and we zoom in here on it, you can kind of see this is where you would place your mark, 17.64 inches from the end of your tube. Your next mark is going to be 39.09. The green zone is the actual length of tubing that is being used to make the bend, considering the K factor that we told it. And it's also telling us that we need a length of tube that is 66.73 inches long. We say, okay, we're good to go. Apply and close. I'm sorry, we were going to bend it, weren't we? Let's go ahead and go back to, let's just go ahead and bend it up then. So we fire it up, and I'm sorry, I am in dimension mode. Let's go to animation mode. Let's go ahead and return this back. Let's go ahead and bend it, and there you go. So we've created that. We've measured our tube. We've entered it in the profile library. We made a part, and we just bent it. I don't know if it's going to get any easier than that. We worked hard to make it this easy. I hope you appreciate it. Anyway, hey, thanks a bunch for watching and supporting us. And I wish you guys a great day. You take care now. Bye.